Hi, hello aspirants. Welcome to the UPSC podcast, Listen, Learn and Revise series presented by Syllabus Coach. We are running the Indian history. This is the ancient Indian history lessons. So this is probably the last lesson in ancient Indian history. This is the lesson of King Harshvardhana, friends. So friends, the earlier lesson, 10th lesson was Guptas, right? So after the Guptas era, it was called as the post-Gupta era. This is also a continuation of the feudalism. So the feudalism, which is believed to be started by Satavahanas, has reached a good significant amount in Guptas, and finally by the time of Harshvardhana it has reached to its peak. And once Harshvardhana's rule has ended, the feudalism has completely taken over and there will be no more dynasties in India till there are no more dynasties which could rule large parts of India till Delhi Sultanate establishes itself, right? So that's the main reason is the feudal systems, because of its small kings and small feudal lords have start taken control, right? So Harshvardhana is an important king. He belongs to a dynasty called as the Pushyabhuti dynasty. Now, what are the literary evidences? Let me tell you some of the evidences which give us the proof of Harshvardhana rule. They are Taneshwar, which is the capital of Harshvardhana, and the second one is Aihole inscription. Third one is Huyen Sang's accounts. Fourth one is Banabhatta's Harshacharitra, and fifth one is Harsha's own writings like Ratnavali, Priyadarshika, and Nagananda. Now let me explain you each of it. Friends, Taneshwar, I would say, is the initial capital of Pushyabhuti dynasty. Later, Harshvardhana has shifted his own capital to Kannauj, which is in Uttar Pradesh. Okay. Now, in this Kannauj, Harshavardhana has donated everything he had every 5 years at Prayag. Prayag is today's Allahabad, right? Recently, it was renamed as Prayag. So he, after shifting his capital from Taneshwar to Kannauj, every 5 years he used to distribute food and clothes to at least 50 lakh people, and every 5 years he used to earn whatever he had. Okay, whatever he used to earn on his own, he used to give to the people. So that is his own style. Second thing is Aihole inscription. Friends, there is a Chalukyan famous king called as Pulkesit. So this Pulkesit has stopped the conquest of Harshvardhana and has even defeated. Said to be defeating Pulkesit is said to be defeated, have defeated Harsha at Narmada River. Okay, so because of this victory, there is a minister of Pulkesit called as Ravikirti. Ravikirti praises Pulkesit in inscription called as Aihole inscription. Okay, in that inscription it is written that Harsha is called as the Lord of the Northern country, also called as Sakalotra Pateshwara. That means a South Indian Chalukyan king inscription has also told about the ruling of Harshavardhana and his name as Sakalotra Pateshwara. That means even the kings who have defeated Harsha have also written about Harshavardhana and his details in their inscriptions. The third is Huyen Sang's accounts. Friends, during the rule of Harshvardhana, there was a Chinese pilgrim called as Huyen Sang. He wrote a work called Siyuki that also gives the detail of administration of Harshvardhana. And there was a poet in Harsha's court called as Banabhatta. He writes Harsha Charitra or Harsha Charita. And the last literary sources of Harsha is Harsha, apart from being a king, he himself is also a scholar and a poet. He has written three important literary works, that is Ratnavali, Priyadarshika, and Nagananda. So these are the literary evidences, friends. Now coming to some important aspects of his rule. I can say that this is the beginning of feudal era in India. So it has become more feudal. It has become more decentralized. I have told you that once empire gets feudal, what happens? The central power of the king will diminish, and small landlords, small feudal kings, small feudal military leaders will emerge, and they try to take the control. And they will try to not to be under the power of the bigger king. So that's why the empire will get more decentralized, and this will start small revolts between the kings, and thus the stability will decline. Because the stability declines and more lands is under the control of priests or military commanders or under temples, the agriculture has declined, and that led to the loss of economy. And land grants to priests have continued. Harsha's empire divided into provinces called Bhuktis, just like Gupta's. Similarly, like Gupta's, here also the empire is divided into Bhuktis or provinces, Bhuktis into Vishyas, Vishyas into villages. The Varnashram Dharma has continued. The women position has further declined, friends. Swayamvaram practice has declined. That means Swayamvaram is an example of women empowerment in those ancient ages. So here, because of feudalism, as the woman position declined, the Swayamvaram practice has declined. Dowry has become common from here. And there are few references of sati as well. You know sati, that when a husband dies, the woman has also entered the pyre along with the sati, along with the husband. That is called as sati. So there are references of it as well. Harsha was an ardent Shiva supporter, but he was tolerant of Buddhism as well. Friends, Buddhism, though, has declined from Gupta's age, but kings of both Gupta as well as Harshvardhana have seriously, sincerely patronized Buddhism. Okay, Harshavardhana was personally a Shiva worshipper, but he was a patronizer of Buddhism as well. He widely publicized Mahayana Buddhism. This we have to remember. I have told you that Emperor Ashoka in the early stages has patronized Hinayana Buddhism, but by the time of Harsha, Mahayana Buddhism enters. So he has patronized and publicized Mahayana Buddhism. He has erected many Buddhist stupas on the banks of river Ganga and has also established monasteries. Friends, I have told you just before now, I have told you that every 5 years at Prayag, he will be distributing to about 50 lakh people clothes, food, etc. That is called as quinquennial distribution. Now coming to the economy under Harsha, it was more of a feudal economy, however self-sufficient economy. That means it was self-sufficient, it need not import. But because of this feudalistic inward-looking economy, the trade with other countries and with other regions of the world have declined. So the trade declined, the paucity of coins happened. Paucity means there is no lack, there are lack of coins. So there is no trade, no coins. Complete disappearance of guilds. Friends, this guild is a very important word. Okay, during the Mauryan dynasty and the Gupta's dynasty, trade guilds were formed. Just like we have Chamber of Commerce, trade bodies, association of business persons. At that point of time in ancient India, all the businessmen of a certain kind of profession used to form a association called as trade guild. For example, all the blacksmiths will form a particular trade guild, all the ironsmiths, all the barbers. So in that way, a particular kind of profession used to have a trade guild. But because of feudalism, by the time of this Harshavardhana, that is 7th century, right, complete trade guilds were demolished. They were disappearing. Emergence of Jajmani system, that is what we call the Yajmani system, which is the uh, biggest and the most striking feature of feudalism. What happens if a village is self-sufficient and it is not trying to do trade with other places? The entire village economy will be in and around the needs of the Yajmani or the feudal lord. For example, there is a big house. Imagine a big house who is a feudal landlord, and there is no currency, there is no trade. All the people they have to survive on the lands of Yajmani. So what will happen? Everything will be under his hands. So that is called the Jajmani system. This is the real problem with the feudal system. Okay, that feudal system which has started in the Satavahanas, Guptas, and has finalized by 7th century. We have India has suffered because of this feudal till independence. Even after independence, for some time till the land reforms have came, this feudal system has been there. Even today, it is present in some parts of India in some or the other form. Okay, so the interaction between the lower and upper castes to maintain self-sufficient villages. Lower castes performed various functions for upper castes and received grains in return. So lower caste did not get money now because of feudal system. They have to go to upper caste and they have to satisfy the needs like working for them or being a slave in their homes, etc., and receive grains in return. They will just receive food grains because there is no currency. So here the village is intertwined in occupations, but there is no trade and no currency. That's why everybody is depending on the Yajman. Okay, so that is the end of the Harshvardhana lesson. So thank you friends. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share. The same kind of analysis I would like to share with you in the medieval and the modern Indian history lessons as well. So this is more of an analytical and UPSC perspective point of explanations rather than mere rote learning of history, the dynasties and the names. So I hope you would appreciate the efforts. Please do like, comment and subscribe. Thank you friends.